Right. Happy New Year to you all from Yoruba Referendum Committee. We are back right on for year 2026, and it's our prayers that the year will be a year of progress for every one of us. We also want to specifically thank all those that have been following us throughout the year 2025, whether you are following us on live or you are watching the recorded videos. We thank you so much. We are here because you are there, and we hope that you continue to support this program. As always, I've got Alagba Femi Odedeyi. He's got a fresh look for 2026, and I'm going to allow him to welcome you again, to thank you for the support so far, and maybe something like a brief of what we're expecting from Yorubaref Freedom Committee in year 2026. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. We thank God for the new year, for 2026, and we thank God for the past years also. What we have done, what we have achieved, the kind of information we are able to put out. But also, like we all know, the job is yet to be completed. It's still in progress, and we are still expecting further support and further intervention by people from within and outside Yoruba land to be able to advance the cause of restructuring by referendum. And we are glad that at least last year, we know that some people intervened and made their suggestions. And our hope this year is that such interventions will continue to expand so that we can influence political developments as they occur. We thank you, like the host said, about for your support and your continuous support, and we will appreciate any questions or comments or issues that you would like us to address as we progress along the line. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. I think we're going to kick off. First of all, you've briefly mentioned some of the impacts that your agitation for Nigeria's restructuring through referendum has had in the past 1 year. And we've also seen like other groups that are coming up to talk about, they may not be talking about referendum with the limitation to Yoruba, but we'll see groups like the Patriot visiting the president, and we've also seen individuals really talking about that federalism. And that is what we are also going to discuss about today. I'm going to mention some Yoruba proverbs, then I'll try as much as possible to interpret myself, because they say that anything over saw in Boniliana or not Lomatume. So that is, if you speak English in your in-laws' house, you must also be ready to interpret. The Yoruba says, "Ishu atenumara nikokin Jonah." That is, if you are cooking yam and you kept on asking for it to be checked, that means the yam will not get burnt. So I believe that the Yoruba referendum position this year is to continue to publicly agitate, both through mediums like this and also through written. Alagba Femi Odede, you will advise us better about the written one if you want to read what the committee is writing, aside from the live video or recorded one like this. Alagba Femi Odede, we know to an extent that almost everyone, and when I say everyone, probably maybe about over 60% of Nigerians believe that Nigeria should be restructured. People may have their own different ideas about what restructuring means to them, whether as ethnic nationality or as individuals or socio-cultural groups. But from the angle of Yoruba referendum, you strongly believe that it has to be ethnic based. You are not proposing a referendum that is done by everyone in Nigeria at the same time, and you are not proposing for a referendum that has to be supervised by INEC or like a federal body. Although there might be some oversight, but you believe that if we take Yoruba for an instance, that if Yoruba is going to do their own referendum, they should be in charge of how it's conducted, and obviously they could have observers both within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. What exactly is the advantages of Yoruba like that picking it like that for them to do it themselves, rather than for the one that has to be done or directed, controlled or supervised by the federal government?
Oh, well, thank you for the question. But, the question is, or the issue is, who are the federating units? So, and once we say the nationalities are the federating units, then the first step is for them to voice out and express their aspirations and expectations. So we can't say the nationalities are the federating units, like say the Yoruba, for example, and the Igbo. Let's say Yoruba and Igbo are federating units. So we can't ask the Igbo to come and vote on Yoruba issues. And we can't ask the Yoruba to go and vote on Igbo issues. That is why they are federating units, because each one has its own existential interests, its own aspirations, its own. So to put it into practical manifestation, it is the people that are the federating units that should vote on what they want for themselves. And once we do that across the country, if we now want to have a federal system, then we can all come together and then, work out, okay, how is this going to do and all that and all that. But the first step is to express ourselves. How do we express ourselves? We express ourselves through our own nationality referendums, not dissolving us into an amorphous citizenship where we say, okay, we are all Nigerians. Like, for example, one of the major reasons for the demand for restructuring and true federalism is that dissolution. When you dissolve everybody into one, as if they don't have their peculiarities, then all kinds of shenanigans will start appearing, which we have been experiencing since at least 1966. So to avoid repeating the same thing over and over, we think and we know that it is the people that are concerned that should determine their conditions to relate with other people, which is what federalism is all about. If we don't take that determination ourselves, let me give you an immediate example. Like all the problem being exercised by Oyo Ife issue, the Alaafin and all the rest of this is a Yoruba issue, which has nothing to do with either the Igbo or the Fulani or the Igala or anybody. So if we as Yoruba say, okay, we are even tired of all these Obas, let's get rid of all of them, we don't need them, that is our problem. If the Yoruba decide that one Oba is going wayward, we can decide to remove the Oba from office, and that is our issue. So there's no need for any intervention by a quote-unquote National Traditional Council. There's nothing like a National Traditional Council. So these are issues that demand our immediate attention. And that is why we are saying it is the people concerned who are the federating units that should first of all determine their own form of existence. We can, if again, to go back to the Yoruba stuff, the Yoruba in Yoruba land is different from the traditional ruler in Igbo land or an emir, for example. They are different. So we need that. But the Nigerian state, as it is presently constituted, can influence how you even choose your own Oba, which which is not acceptable. So we set our own parameters. I'm just using the Oba stuff as an example. There are other issues that are also concerned, but we need to know where we are. Now, when they talk about shared identity, how do you share something when you are not recognized, when your existence is not recognized? If I'm not recognized as a Yoruba, how can I say I have a shared identity with an Igbo? Because that quote unquote shared identity becomes meaningless once you don't recognize the Yoruba, you don't recognize the Igbo. So the question becomes, what do you share and who is doing the sharing? So even to have shared identity, shared vision, shared citizenship, shared whatever, you must exist for any sharing to take place. So, and if you don't emphasize your own existence, you will be dissolved into something else. And once you become dissolved into something else, you are no longer sharing. Something else is being imposed on you. So, and that is what, these are some of the reasons we, took that position.
Okay, thank you. Talking about federalism, I don't know whether we've discussed this, whether I've thrown this question to you before. There's the vocabulary federalism, which was generally or is still being discussed in Nigeria. But at a point, that federalism sort of had an addition that when people talk in Nigeria, especially the politicians, they would say true federalism. Is there a difference between federalism and true federalism? Or if there's a difference, you help us to expatiate. But if there is not, how did we come to that junction where the word federalism, which is used all over the world, suddenly becomes true federalism for us?
Yes, there's a reason. I won't say there's a difference. I will say there's a reason. The whole question of true federalism in Nigeria began under the military government. I think specifically under Abacha, when the politicians were trying to fight against the military government and stuff like that, and then especially Afenifere, then they started talking about true federalism. Why are they talking about true federalism? Because Nigeria was still being described as a federal republic, even under military rule. So the politicians, the political leaders at that time now decided, look, we have to emphasize the kind of federalism we are talking about. That is how the word true federalism came into our political use. Ordinarily, federalism is federalism, and it only means a center and a coordinate subsidiary relationship. You have a federating unit and you have a governing center, and then they have a co-equal relationship. That is basic. It's basic all over the world. But when the military came, it's now a federal military government. Now the federal military government now controls everything, including how many local governments you will have in your own territory, including all those things. And then they started allocating money to all of them. Okay, you take this, you take that, you take that. So, and they call themselves a federal republic or a federal military government. So the Afenifere leaders at that time now said, look, that is not federalism. What we want is true federalism based on the original and accepted meaning of federalism. So that is how true federalism became a political lexicon in Nigeria. And after the military, in fact, the civilian administration since 1999, they are also saying Nigeria can have its own version of federalism. Well, Nigeria can do this, just like they are saying now. When they say local government autonomy, they will say that is because we want to have our own version of it. You can't have a version of yourself outside the accepted norms. So there is an accepted norm of what federalism is. So if you are saying the federal government or the center will be paying your local government, which is against the norms of federalism, so those of us who are talking about federalism need to differentiate that, wait, what they are doing is not federalism. What we are advocating is true federalism. Because if we don't, we will get sucked up into all this, okay, we can have our own federalism the way we want it. Yeah, and it's not done. That is how things get from bad to worse, because you are sidestepping the real issue. So in general, ordinarily there shouldn't be anything called, quote unquote, true federalism if we all accept the definition of federalism as a co-equal relationship between the center and the federating units. And in fact, it is the federating units that will create the center. Unlike what happens in Nigeria, where the center created the states, all those military government, they created all the states and then they decreed them as federating units. So we have to be clear. So that is why true federalism is important, to make that distinction, that the federal government cannot create states and then say they are federal. It is the states that will create the federal. And we see what happened during the First Republic, regardless of all the problems that happened and all that. It was the political parties that won elections, that now made the center when they had the alliances and all that. But each also was able to represent its region in what you. So it's not like, even when the Midwest region was going to be created, they didn't just sit down at the Federal House of Representatives and say, okay, we have created Midwest region, you are now a federating unit. No, they were voted for it. The people of the Midwest voted for it. They said they want their own region. They voted for it and they got it and they became part of the federation. So it's I would call it a political necessity, not a question of definition, to emphasize that everything that Nigeria has been doing since 1966 that is saying it is federal is not true. It's not federal. It's not federal. It is so we need to so that's the major issue there. And even the whole sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go on, sir.
No, I was just going to tag along with the cool question of restructuring. So everything, it was all just under the military regime when all these things began to come up, that look, we have to restructure, we have to do this, we have to get to true federalism, we have to. So there were reactions to the military that has already ascribed to itself the right to determine how Nigeria should be. So,
all right. Thank you very much for that. Let's look at, from what you said, we've had a sort of a government in the past, with the example you gave about the Midwest.
Yeah.
And people up till now, still, when they are talking about the years of glory, or what the years that they could actually point to, the golden era, they always refer to that era when we had that sort of government. Now, from that time up until now, despite the fact that groups, individuals have fought for federalism, Why is it difficult for Nigeria to sit back and look at what happened in those eras and get things done? What exactly? Is it that we are not doing enough as a people, or is it that our leaders are not in tandem with the need for such a government?
No, what is happening is that this is a political contest. It's a political contest between those who want Nigeria to remain the way it is defined. They call it Federal Republic of Nigeria. And those who are saying, no, that is not the kind of federalism we want. That's not what federalism is. So it's a political contest between those two forces. Unfortunately, most of our political leaders, including those who have been very vociferous about true federalism in the past, most of them want to retain the current definition of Nigeria as it is. That's why they will say this is our own form of federalism. For the advocates of true federalism now, it's like, no, we can't go that way. But unfortunately for them also, they are yet to have a political program of actualization. Most of the time is analysis. We analyze it, our beautiful analysis, beautiful prose, all kinds of stuff like that. But we are yet to develop a political program to challenge the existing order. And when any, like the APC government now, I think El Rufai wrote something last week.
Yeah.
They had we can talk about that later. They had a committee which he chaired on federalism. Throughout his 8 years as governor, nothing was heard of that committee. Now he came out 2 weeks ago saying, we had this, we had that, and started complaining. Okay, of course, the same government that is there now is also an APC government. So among the political leadership, there is that what I would call consensus among them that, okay, let's leave it the way it is. We only need to fight our way to power and then try the best we can, which is what is happening now, unfortunately. That, okay, now we now have a president who was a federalist, let me put it that way, who is now saying the center should be paying the local government because the governors are corrupt. That is not an argument, but for those of us on the outside who are not in government or who don't belong to that political trajectory, we are yet to develop a political platform to challenge them. So now elections are coming. They will start running around again, yes, and this and this and this and this. Most of us on the outside will probably support one form or the other, especially when one makes any promises and stuff. But I think about 3 months ago, sometime last year, Olisa Agbakoba made one point. He said, the next elections, anyone who doesn't subscribe to restructuring to true federalism should not be voted for. Now, the problem with that is that, it's okay, but the problem with it is if you don't have your own political platform to make that demand, and you leave the politicians to come around and start making all sorts of promises, then, they can take you for a ride, which we have seen happening. So the problem is more with those of us on the outside to discover how we can develop that political momentum in such a manner that the whole idea of federalism becomes a topical issue in our land. That is why we are making our own demands. When we talk about Yoruba referendum, we have done this, we have done that, we have gone there, we have done this, to become the political issue of the day. So this is no longer a question of promises. You now have a program. We say, okay, we have a bill for a referendum at the Houses of Assembly. You want to contest for election, go and endorse it. I mean, don't promise us that when you get to power, you will do this, you will do that. You don't need to get to power to endorse that quest for referendum. That alone will start addressing so if we have it all over the place like that, or even if it's just even in Yoruba land alone, anybody that says we are Yoruba, we are this federal, that, there is a program on ground. Go and endorse it before your election. Otherwise, you are lying. I mean, we can put it like that. Blunt. It's not an insult. It's not. It's a simple political necessity of the day. It's already there. Endorse it. No, we don't need your promises. We don't need you to come and tell us when you get there. Don't worry. You know this and no. Go and endorse it publicly. It is there. Then we see where we go from there. So I think the issue is for those of us who are making the agitation to rise to the occasion to develop a systematic political program towards it.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. In terms of the federalism, the journey right up until now, and the one that is kicking off from 2026, because soon they will start the campaign, just as you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Where do you see? I mean, I know Yoruba referendum has its own program, like, you know, the one that is written media, and also like what we're having now, like a program like this which is live. Where do you see referendum in the next election as a topical issue in the next election?
Yeah, sorry. It's it depends on us. Let me put it that way. It depends on what we are able to do. Like I said earlier, you have the politicians will start running around and making promises and giving palliatives and empowering people with cassava stick and wheelbarrows and all kinds of stuff like that, and sachets of rice. They will start doing all that. But what are we doing? Because in a sense, I will also say those of us who are advocates are also political activists. We are not a formal political party, but we are political activists. So what are we doing to counter them? That's why I mentioned it earlier on that, okay, if we now start demanding our own campaign, is very simple. Endorse the bill for referendum in the House of Assembly, openly, publicly. And there are reasons why you should do so. And we can state all the reasons. So the campaign is on us.
Yeah.
To start, okay, where do we go? How do we start? And this. So once we establish that as our campaign platform, we put it out and we allow people, like we have been saying, we encourage people to demand from those who come to campaign. Well, yeah, this is what we want. So once we get to that point, I believe that the whole political dynamics will change.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alagba Femi Odedeyi. That is about all that we can take today. There will be follow-up sessions for this discussion about referendum, especially in encouraging our people to be active in this next election, especially in engaging with our politicians and our representatives who may be coming around to ask or to demand for their votes. So this time around, it's not going to be the Boko Shebe, vote and cook, or vote and take rights or something like that.
Yeah.
The one that has been taken in the past, I don't think
It's not
those
getting
lasted
us
for
anywhere.
even a month
Yeah.
before people finished. And so, and people need now to start thinking about what is in for the future. And that is only what could be done in the present. So thank you once again, Alagbafemi Odedeyi, and we will be having you next time.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you. Next weekend, well, next Sunday.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. Thank you.
You are most welcome.
All right.
Bye now.